Well, hello, wealthy women. It is Coach Tamara here. Okay, I have such a beautiful interview for you today. It's going to really be amazing, helpful, and the success questions, we always learn so much and realize we're never alone. We're all, can help each other understand that the road to becoming an entrepreneur or following your dreams, whatever they are, we all go through these steps. So be inspired. And I couldn't be more proud. So I'm just going to pass the camera over now and we will get started. So go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Coach Tamara. So my name is Aeoliana Elliott, and I am a podcast launch strategy coach. And what I do is I help podcasters find their authentic voice and share that message with the world. Preventing burnout, preventing overwhelm, just building their passion alongside their regular lives, whatever those lives entail. The reason I started doing this was because between 2017 and 2019, I had several health issues, which caused me job losses, hospitalizations, life-threatening things, things like that. And I realized that I needed to do something different. Now, I still work full-time. I'm a paralegal, but I knew that I needed something else. I needed an extra side income because I wasn't doing it. The regular work field was not what it needed to be for me. So I jumped into podcasting. I did some producing, some editing, some publishing. And I decided that the mindset part of podcasting was so important. Realizing that you have a unique voice, you have a message to share, and just working with people, specifically women, women business owners as well, to just get your voice out there. We've been quiet for too long. Our voices need to be heard. We have important things to say, and there's people out there, they want to say it, that want to hear it. I'm a big believer in, if you have a pull in your heart to start a podcast or to speak in general, it's because someone out there in the world wants to hear what you have to say. They need to hear what you have to say. So I do one-on-ones. I'm working on a group coaching program at the moment. I'm also working on releasing my podcast coming up soon here. So by the time this goes live, it'll be live. It'll be good to go. And I do a lot of digital products, workshops. I speak at summits. I provide my digital products in bundles, and just any way that I can serve, every way that I can serve is how I want to show up. I want everyone to know that they matter. They're not insignificant. None of us are insignificant. We all have a purpose. We all have a reason why we're here. And that is to change someone else's life, whether we understand that or not. So, and my website is www.topshelfvirtualservices.com.
I love this. And I think it's so important what you're saying about helping someone find their message, because so often there's so much passion and inspiration in someone's heart. They know they want to help and they know they want to serve, but they don't necessarily know how to bring it into form and how to build a nice foundation of what their real message is in their heart and how to properly get it out there. And I think podcasting it has to be one of the best vehicles out there. I'm pretty obsessed with podcasts. Most people are,
Me too.
Yes, exactly right. That's why you're here, because we need your help, because I think so many people understand the value of podcasting, but they're overwhelmed and they don't know where to get started. And then they start to kind of get into maybe a linear thinking. It's all about the tech and the name and how do I upload the audio and this, that, and the other thing. And yeah, that's all important. But, prior to that,
Yep.
you need the blueprint, right? So
Yep.
you are like the podcast blueprint maker before the house is built, so to speak. And I
Yep.
love that, because if you just get a bunch of building materials and you don't know what your blueprint is, what kind of house are you going to make? So it's the same
Right.
with a podcast. You help people create their beautiful message and their foundation, not only so that they can serve others with a clear, powerful message, but also so that they can feel so confident
Mm-hmm.
going into their podcast with clarity and direction and knowing where they want to take their podcast. Like they
Yep.
can see the long picture, right?
Yep.
And that's why I am so happy that you're here, because this is this connection to the soul's inspiration, right?
Yeah.
For why, what's their message, is is missing. This is, podcast experts, so-called, out there, they don't get into this part, and this is
Right.
really very, very important. It's
Yeah.
sort of like anyone can write a book because they're just words, but what are your words and why are those words your words, right? Like, why did you
Mm-hmm.
choose those words? Those words are coming because they're a part of your heart. There's
Right.
something in you that has to be spoken, or
Mm-hmm.
else just write anything and it doesn't even matter. So, like, this
Right.
is why I'm so glad you're here. I really am so glad you're here, because you are giving people a springboard to jump into something that seems overwhelming for them,
Yeah.
or, oh, maybe later, podcast is such a big deal, I don't even know how to get started, I just figured out my Facebook group, let me get a hold on that, right? So, like,
Yeah.
there's this idea that podcasting is so complicated and something to be put off. But I can tell you from my own experience with my downloads as well, it is one of the most magnificent ways to get your message out there and
Mm-hmm.
help. And so, for all of you women listening, I highly recommend you really consider starting your podcast yesterday
Mm-hmm.
or at least tomorrow. And you just really, like, your services again are going to help them so much.
Yeah.
So just let me get your website one more time, just in case anyone missed that.
Sure. It's www.topshelfvirtualservices.com.
I love this. Love it. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and get into the success questions. And these are great because there's so many women out there. It's sort of like podcasting, right? Podcasting is a new venture. Starting your business is a big new venture.
Yep.
And even if you already are doing your business, there's always ways to improve, tweak, enhance, up level, all of the things. And these success questions are asked to get feedback from ones that are doing it, and they have the experience, and they're going to share, what their journeys are, so that you feel like you're not alone. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why I always love asking these questions. So are you ready to get started with some
I'm
success
ready. Let's
questions?
go.
Okay, here we go. One of my first ones that I love asking is, if you could only choose one answer, what is the number one way that building your business has enriched your life so far?
Wow. I would say the lessons that it's taught me, not just in a business aspect, but in a personal learning aspect. My change in mindset, my change in how I approach things, how I approach life in general, realizing that I am capable of doing more than I thought I could. Realizing that there's so much more to life than what we're taught. We're taught that you have to go to school, you have to go to college, you have to get a degree, you have to get a 9 to 5 job, and that's the only way that you can be successful. And to learn that that's not the only way. A lot of us aren't meant to, be in that environment and thrive in that environment. I know myself, yeah, I have a 9 to 5 and I've worked corporate for several years, but it's not where I thrive. It's not where I'm lit up. It's not where I enjoy what I'm doing. And starting my business allowed me to find that passion again, to find who I truly am and what I'm truly here to serve. So that would be my answer.
I love that. It is exactly the answer I feel as well, because, I've had my share back in the day of a couple, corporate jobs. And sure, there were benefits of that for sure. There's always a good and a bad to everything, right? So it depends also what you're looking for. But in your heart when something's off, or that you can't
Mhm.
sustain it for the long haul. It feels like sort of a burden, almost like an imprisonment somehow,
Yep.
even though there's nothing necessarily wrong with the job, because to somebody else it's a total gift. But to some of us, we just have wings that we fly differently. And
Mhm.
to be able to know that we can, sustain ourselves and be able to serve at the same time, it's yeah, it really does get into that point, like, is this even work? Because it feels
Mhm.
so good. And
Yeah.
it's because the inspiration is in your heart. And then of course the freedom. And then I think that's really one of the things, is the freedom, not just of time, but of expression. Who are you showing up as in the world, and knowing that you can create that for
Yeah.
yourself? No one tells you, you get to design it. And yeah,
Yeah.
this is the best part.
You don't have to be what anyone expects you to be. You don't have to look a certain way, be a certain way, dress a certain way. You can be who you truly are
Yeah.
and share your message, what's true to you, and not have to fit into a box. And so many of us, we don't fit into regular boxes. We've tried our whole lives to fit into boxes, and we do a pretty good job, but like you said, deep down we feel like something's missing, something's broken, something's lost. And the
Yes.
more you do that, the less you find yourself. And with this business, I've been able to find myself again, find my passions, find what I truly love. And my husband says, he's like, when you're doing this, you're like glowing, it's like great. And I'm like, yay. So
See, that's beautiful too, that you have a supportive husband, because I know a lot of times, many of us, a lot of women go through this thing where our family members don't always understand
yeah.
what we're doing. How are you working in your pajamas? Like, what, get a real job, like the whole nine
Mm-hmm.
yards, it can come out. And of course there's always that beginning stage where your business is maybe just starting, so it hasn't produced any real tangible
Mm-hmm.
assets, revenue yet. And you can start to feel like you have to explain yourself, or apologize, or ask for permission. Just, I promise it's going to work, just give it a little bit,
Yeah.
give me a little more time. So that might be, both of us, we're lucky we have supportive husbands,
Mm-hmm.
spouses. But I've had a couple friends that didn't understand what I was doing when I first started. And even one had uh felt she had the freedom. She wasn't, anyway, people like to share their opinions, and whether you want to hear them or not, and you're staying in your lane doing your own thing, you're not necessarily talking about your business or overstepping your boundaries yet. Sometimes people just want to come in there and kind
Yep.
of give you their and it's not always positive. So maybe for women that might be experiencing some of that,
Mm-hmm.
can you give and this is off topic, I don't even have this on one of my cards, but I think it's a great, I go rogue often, you'll find that. um, can you give maybe some advice for some of them that are struggling to help their immediate family members understand what they're doing, so they don't lose the steam to go for their dreams, because it can
Sure.
happen.
Sure. Yeah. So, one of the biggest things with that, I mean, you've got to think about it this way: people are always going to have opinions, regardless of what you do. People are going to have opinions about the way you dress, the person that you are, the jobs that you choose, the food that you choose, the people that you choose to hang out with. There's always going to be opinions about your life. Um, and I would say with your business or with your podcast, know what your why is. Know the reason behind why you're doing what you're doing, and be firm on that. Because when those questions come up, when that doubt comes up, you have that strong foundation of that why that's going to keep you going through the naysayers. Because if you don't have that strong foundation in that why and your purpose and your mission of why you're doing what you're doing, whatever it is, every time someone comes and says no to you, or offers some kind of obstacle to you, you're not going to be able to get back up and continue as quickly every time you face that. So you have to have that just solid foundation and knowing why you're doing. Same reason you have to have that solid foundation of knowing who you are. You have to have that solid foundation of knowing why you're doing what you're doing. And
So
you know your purpose, like you know why you're doing it. It doesn't matter if no one else comes along with you. Find yourself a community of people that will support you. And eventually, those people who said no will see that there's a change in you and will see that you're moving forward in a direction they're not going. And some will follow you, some will want to know where you're going, and others will be left behind. And you have to leave them behind. You're becoming a different person. This is a whole life change. A business causes you to become a different person, and not everyone is going to be there along for the ride. So that would
that, I mean, that was really beautiful the way you just explained that. I could not have said that better. That really says everything. And you have to be okay with the fact that,
yeah.
As you change, some things might fall off, and that's okay because they'll be replaced by better things. And what you said about find yourself communities that support this. We women business owners, we know that we're so blessed with endless communities out there with other people that get us, so we don't ever have to be lonely. And the other thing is, as far as like criticisms go, I say this I in a couple of my interviews, but if anyone has not heard it yet, one of my coaches who's world famous and amazing, when she was first starting out, she said, she was afraid to go online and be visible because of the criticism. And her supportive husband found some kind of Instagram reel with this cute little grandma making cookies. I mean, what could be critical about that? That's just lovely, right? Grandma
Yeah.
bakes cookies. Who in the world could ever criticize something like this? Well, he scrolled down far enough to find many negative comments about this cute little grandma. And what he did is he showed it to his wife, and he said, listen, if a grandma's going to get criticized and still show up, you need to show up because you're here to help people. And
Yeah.
she was changed instantly in that
Yeah.
moment. That's a great man
Yeah.
right there to do
Yeah.
that.
It doesn't matter what you're talking about, what you're doing. There's always going to be people that are going to criticize you. And it's
Always.
because they're jealous that they're not strong enough to do what they're doing. 9 times out of 10, trolls are people who want to do what you're doing, but they're too scared to do
Yeah. Yeah. And then I had another
it.
client. She was funny. She's like, don't even worry about the people that put on a negative comment on your, your feed, because they're helping boost the algorithm.
Right?
I thought that's a good way to look at it. So I thought that was, find the positive. And it's kind of like this, I always say, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. You should be
Right.
failing all the time. You should be failing forward all the time, because if you're not pushing yourself hard enough. So get over the fear of failure, the fear of visibility, the fear of criticism, the fear of perfectionism, right? This is
Yep.
all the things we all go through. It is
Yep.
normal. Imposter syndrome, all
I
of the things.
had I had a coach tell me once, and I teach this to my son. There's no failure. When you take action, you either get the result you wanted or the lesson that you needed to learn.
Yes, love that. And that lesson that you learn just gets you that much closer to the result you want, because then
Yep.
you learn how to fine tune. It's like anything.
Right.
So, I mean, think about all of these talented artists, singers, dancers, painters, sculptors. They didn't master anything in the beginning. It's a work in progress. So that's what I like. I have a t-shirt that says progress, not perfection. So
That's
all right,
right.
I'm glad we touched on that.
Okay.
This is important because a lot of women go through this and they get stuck. The other thing I would always recommend too is, once you get started, start asking for reviews and testimonials from your clients. Not only will that help you with social proof, obviously, but when you're having a down day and you're hard on yourself and you forgot your big why, right? And you go back and you read or listen to the testimonials that others gave to you because of the work that you helped them with, it is going to make you re-get your boost and feel invigorated again. I've done it myself. I remember once I had a hard day and I'm like, what am I doing? And I
Mhm.
read all of my testimonials or listened to them. I'm like, oh wow. And then it's not about you. Then you get in front of yourself and realize you have a job to do to help other
Right.
people. Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. So why would you encourage another woman, now that we have just gone on, it's I think pretty obvious, but why would you encourage another woman to continue building her business or start one?
Um, I would say if you started a business, there's something in your business or something in your why. Subconsciously, there's someone out there who needs what you have, who needs to hear what you have to say. You may never meet this person. That's why podcasting is such a great medium for this. You may never meet or talk to everyone who listens to your podcast, but the words and the message that you relay in those episodes could change someone's life.
Yes. You know, I wanted to add to this. Again, I'm going rogue, but
Go rogue, girl, go
I
rogue.
know I kind of like that when that happens. So another thing, when you're doing things, for
Mhm.
all you women out there that are, posting Instagram or Facebook or podcasts or whatever it is that you're doing, and you're feeling a little bit, sad that maybe you didn't get enough, likes or follows or comments, positive comments, don't take it too hard, because think about how many times do you listen to somebody that really moves you, you loved it, but you got busy and you didn't leave a comment, and this happens all the time.
Yep.
So if you, for example, have a podcast episode that is so good, and you only see, a handful of likes or even less comments, don't think that that podcast did not reach the ears and the
Mhm.
souls of people, maybe hundreds upon hundreds, even thousands of people that you'll never know actually really listen to it,
Right.
because you're waiting for the comments. And just know, think of yourself. How many times do you go even to a restaurant? Do you always go and write a review every time? No,
Mhm.
none of us do that.
No.
We sometimes do if we have the time, but more often than not, I would say maybe 2 out of 10 times we maybe leave a comment. So think about the fact that that doesn't mean that whatever you do or did wasn't well received. They might just have enjoyed it, really felt it, and moved from that, and didn't necessarily comment. So because
Right.
I
I
think
don't
that's
comment on anything. I'm terrible.
no,
I'm
I get it.
terrible.
Yeah, but I think this is
Yeah.
important that we're actually saying this, because
Yeah.
such a vanity metrics world, right? And everyone is judging themselves so harshly if they didn't get, you know, a viral situation happening. But, when I think about myself, I rarely, and I
Mhm.
should do this more often for other people, but I rarely comment, or,
Yep.
it is what it is. So I'm glad we touched on that too. Okay, moving on. I love this question because I always believe that the way you start your day really kind of has a good foundation for how the rest of your day will go. So do you have any empowering routines? I like to call them wealthy woman habits that you do each and every day. And if you miss the day, you feel really off. Like it's something different.
It's funny for me. I've really tried morning routines and they don't really work. I can't do them every day. Like I can do them a few times a week. I always get up early. So my house gets up at 6:30. I'm usually up 5:30. And I sit and I listen to meditations, or I scour Instagram for like positive messages. Lately, it's been looking through like different words that I didn't know and finding different meanings in different words. And I'll screenshot them for future Instagram reels or whatever. Um, I do enjoy journaling in the morning. I try to do that at least once or twice a week, where I'll go in and I'll journal on different things. Um, I always have some water when I wake up first thing in the morning. I have to hydrate. And then sometimes I'll do my golden milk latte tea thing,
Love this.
which I really like. And that I usually do that if I get up and I am already feeling down, I'll grab one of those, and the pick me up is great. But yeah, I really should get a regular morning routine But other than getting up early every single morning, I I can't say that I have anything that I do specifically. I'm so sporadic with
Well,
what I do.
to me, it sounds like you have one. I think those are all good things, what you said. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be like every day, but that's a really good start.
Yeah.
Like, especially like where you're on, your routine where you get up at the same time every day and give yourself a little bit of time before the family wakes up, right?
Mhm.
So I love that. What was one of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome as you were growing your business?
Definitely, I'll give you two. So the first one was definitely changing the mindset from an employee to a business owner, having to understand that I wasn't always going to have someone telling me what I needed to do. I had to figure it out for myself. And I mean, we're all totally capable of figuring that out, but having to have that mindset where you realize, okay, this is my business. I have to figure out how it's going to be run. And then the second part is the imposter syndrome, like coming and talking to people and teaching people about things, um, and feeling like, well, why should they listen to me? I don't have a team with me. I'm doing this by myself. I'm working on my podcast as I'm teaching them, kind of things. I don't have any room to speak. I don't have enough expertise to speak. But realizing that I don't have to know everything, I just have to know a little bit more to be able to help them get to where I am. And just, constantly pulling them along, helping them build what they're doing teaches me at the same time as I'm teaching them. So those are the,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I love that. That was so well said because, I'm a money coach, right? And I thought, well, who am I when I first started? Who am I
Mhm.
to be a money coach and teach other people how to, make money? I'm not a millionaire yet.
Right.
Yet is the key word
Yet,
there.
yet, that's a magic word. Always
Right?
add that. Yet.
Or I didn't break the 10K month yet. So who am I? But you
Right.
are so right. As long as you're basically one step ahead, you have something to teach. And
Right.
then you'll move on to your next step and then you'll still have something to teach. So you are enough as you are. You have enough
Right.
and you have your own personal journey that is sort of like, your own recipe, which is
Mhm.
so beautiful for others to be able to participate in the journey that you have or your
Right.
style of doing things or your life lessons, how they kind of intertwined with how you're teaching your business lessons or so forth. So I love that.
Right.
Speaking of mindset, do you believe that mindsets are more important than systems and strategies, and why?
Yes, I absolutely do. I believe that you can have the best systems and strategies in place, but if you're not working on your mindset, the same roadblocks are going to keep coming up again and again and again. You're going to have the same issues, the same thoughts are going to keep coming in, the same, trolls are going to be messing with you. You're going to have the same issues. And that's because when we don't work on our mindset, and we don't work on our thoughts and how we feel and how we relate to things and what we make things mean for ourselves, you can have the best tech in the world. You can have the most high end strategies and it's not going to matter because it's not going to change. Those issues, those roadblocks, those obstacles are going to keep coming up in different forms until they're dealt with. Once they're dealt with, you can move on and do other things, but you have to take care of that first, or at least be working on it. It's not something that you deal with it once, it's done, and you're never going to deal with it again. But once you address it, once you give it a name, once you know what it is, it makes it a lot easier to handle moving forward. Like my son is 12. And so when the first Inside Out movie came out, I don't remember how old he was. I'd say maybe 6 or 7. And he was having a hard time discussing his emotions, like talking about his emotions. And so we took that movie and we were like, okay, tell us what color you feel. And so if he was feeling angry and scared, he'd mix the colors and he'd say, I'm feeling orange, or I'm feeling, whatever color came to his mind. And it helped him to be able to express what he was feeling. We could have gone through and just dealt with the actual issue going on, but it wouldn't have helped his emotions. It wouldn't have helped how he was feeling and why those feelings were being manifested in this way.
But it brings me to a good point, what you just said, because I was basically going to say, do you believe in coaches? And this is a perfect
Yeah.
point because I truly do. So, like your son going through this on his own, he might not have been able to figure that
Mm-hmm.
out, right? So, you were basically like his coach in this
Mm-hmm.
moment. And I know I had him blocked, and I thought I knew myself so well, I should be able to figure out my whole self and what my problem is on this particular thing, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't see it. I didn't even know I had it. And it took a coach, and within like 15, 20 minutes, it was understood what it was. I was aware. I knew how to fix it. I never had a problem again. And so, like, yes, there are those times where, we have to figure out why are we getting in our own way. And, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the times we can definitely fix ourselves. But there are those moments when you feel like you are not being your normal self, you keep hitting a wall and you don't know why. I promise you, this might be the right time for you to get a coach or a mentor, because that's what was happening. I
Yeah.
knew I wasn't acting my normal self. My ambitious self wasn't showing up with the follow through, and I couldn't figure it out because I always had the follow through to my ambitions, and I was blocked, and I didn't know why. And it had a lot to do with a pain that I suffered at that someone
Mm-hmm.
else took something away from me, an asset of mine. And it turned out that I was blocking myself from achieving because I was afraid my assets were going to get lost again.
Right.
And I couldn't see it. And I meditate, I yoga, I journal, all the things, and I'm very self-reflective. And I was like, but it convinced me. I'm like, whoa, coaches are
Yeah.
so important, and they
Well,
help you quantum leap as well once you fix your problem.
the great thing about coaches and mentors is that for us, we're in it every day. We're so close to the issues and the problem. And a coach or a mentor has a bird's eye view. They can see farther. So they can
Mhm.
see the whole picture versus, and I mean, I'm not saying go in and, I mean, obviously different budgets, different people, there's different
And
coaches out
different
there.
just different
Right,
issues.
different,
Yeah.
right. There's totally, there's a coach for everyone out there.
Yeah. That's true.
Um, I know for me, some of the coaches that I've worked with them because it's been a great vibe. It's been a great, they've helped me felt better about myself. Coaches that I haven't worked with have been ones, sometimes it was a financial thing. Sometimes it was something that they taught that maybe didn't quite resonate with me, or it wasn't something that I was in alignment with.
Right.
And sometimes it's just been a bad vibe that it didn't, we didn't fit well together.
Yes.
So there's tons of coaches out there. And for me, I even for the longest time didn't want to call myself a coach because I put coaches on such a high pedestal, and their life changing, um the way they can change your life. I was like, I'm not doing that. I can't call myself a coach. But then I had to realize there's all different kinds of coaches. There's all different kinds of benefits to coaches, and as long as I'm doing it from a place of service, I'm a place of, a heart-centered place, I can call myself a coach because I know I'm not going to try to take anybody's money or try to swindle anybody or steer anybody the wrong way, because I know what my intent is. So,
Integrity, intention,
right, right.
service, right? And you just want to feel like you're making a beautiful impact on somebody, which you
Mm-hmm.
are, by the way. Okay,
Thank you.
two more questions for you.
Okay.
Um, like visibility, okay? Like, how did you
Mm-hmm.
get over your fear of first going live, let's say on Facebook or Instagram stories or something like that? How did
I
you do
love
that?
talking in front of people. I am an introvert, extrovert. I love people, but the right kind of people.
Mhm.
And so for me, I've always spoken. I've, I've always been in front of people. I was a theater kid growing up. Um, So I've always liked talking in front of people. I'm not shy in front of the camera. As long as I have an outline or a script or something to say, um, I'm pretty comfortable in front of a camera. Probably because I can't see the people on the other side. I'm just recording and I don't really know if people are watching me or not. So maybe that's a tip. Like, talk to yourself and get comfortable talking on camera by yourself. Um, Listening to the sound of your own voice might be something helpful, if you're stuck in not getting seen. Another thing with podcasting too that's awesome is that you don't have to go on video if you don't want to. Sure, videos are the thing of the future, but if you just want to record your voice, like my podcast is just audio. I'm not recording any video with it right now. Will I in the future? Maybe, but right now it's just my voice. I'm just recording. So you don't have to be visible in that way if you're not comfortable. You can totally be faceless and still have as much impact as you're meant to have.
I love this, what you were just saying too about, just, getting your message out there and just knowing, that you're serving, like that whole thing, and learning, like what you're saying, listen to your voice, practice, right? Until you
Mm-hmm.
get comfortable with it. It's interesting that you said that because just the other day I was listening to one of my interviews, and it just was an amazing interview, as all my interviews are, with all these beautiful women. And I get very enthusiastic sometimes, and they're talking and I'm really into it. I'm like, and I'll like talk with them, like, yes, oh, I know. And I'll start to like, you know, do that, companionship talk
Mm-hmm.
together, which is a great feeling, when you're in the zone and in the vibe with somebody. The problem was when I listened back to my podcast, it was making it more difficult for that person's message to be heard because you heard my voice being enthusiastic. And so today, I don't know, today I am purposely saying, don't say, just use thumbs up and express face expression so that when the podcast comes out, you can be heard clearly with everything that you're trying to say, which, is a little difficult for me because I tend to be a conversation interrupter in a very nice way, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
Mm-hmm.
so enthusiastic, but I'm learning. And this is because I listened back to my podcast. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I got to fix that. I understand why I did it, but it doesn't make for a good sound. So that's my new goal, is to just give thumbs up and smiles and, silent expressions until
I
like
love it. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah, you learn,
We're constantly creating new goals. We're constantly
Mhm.
creating and learning, and we learn from one another. Your every podcast episode that you put out is going to sound completely different because you're growing, you're learning, you're changing, what you talk about. I know a lot of people, we were talking earlier about how a lot of people get stuck on the tech side of it. And one of the biggest hangups people have is the editing. And they're like, well, I have to make it sound perfect. No, you don't have to make it sound perfect. You just have to make it sound like you. If someone was to see you on the street and you say and like a lot, they have to be able to understand that. They have to be able to hear that.
Love that. And here's what I also did in the beginning, trying to be the perfectionist, because I do video and the podcast. And and I make a joke out of it now. Sometimes I don't wear my readers, but now, like when I'm done with my interview, I have to put this back on and figure out, okay, where's the stop recording button? And there's that little lag where I'm not perfect. It's showing me ending. And in the beginning, I would do all of the edits and it would drive me nuts because that's, for me, that's boring work. I don't like that. And it just is a taking my time. And I'm like, and then I just got to the point and I'm like, you know what? People want to see real people. They want to
Mhm.
see people be authentic and make the little so-called mistakes or imperfections, because it gives them permission to not have to be perfect either. And so now I just let it be what it is. I'm expecting a delivery today, for example. I'm At first I was nervous, like, oh, what if the doorbell rings while we're in the middle of this professional interview? And I'm like, well, that is kind of life, and we'll make it work,
Yep.
and so this is just, so I guess why I'm saying this is, all of you women, do not get hung up on perfectionism, because nobody wants to see the so-called airbrushed perfect model. We want
No,
real people because we're real people. And by being your real self, you're giving others permission to be their real selves, and you're
absolutely.
gifting them. You're giving them
Absolutely.
a gift by not being perfect. And this
Yep.
should take all the pressure off of you. So,
Yep.
okay, my last and final question. What would be, if you could choose only one professional tip for women who are growing their business, what would it be?
Remember to set goals.
You expand on
So, uh, I think that encompasses so much more. But like I was saying earlier, if you don't know what your why is, if you don't have goals to set, you're not going to be able to overcome the naysayers. You're not going to be able to overcome the low downloads. You're not going to be able to overcome a day where you're tired or you don't feel like doing it, or you had a bad review. You're not going to be able to overcome anything. You're not going to be able to keep going if you don't have that solid foundation of the goals, because you're going to look at the whole entire thing and you're going to overwhelm yourself. You're going to burn yourself out looking at everything. Goals are what helps us take small steps to get to the end result. So if you're not setting up those little small steps, you're never going to be able to see yourself accomplishing whatever it is that you're accomplishing. So like I'm not a runner, but if let's say you wanted to start a marathon, you have to start off slow. You don't just wake up one morning and say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do the Boston Marathon. That's impossible. You have to start, like, okay, for the next 3 months, I'm going to get up a little bit earlier and go run for a half a mile and then run for a mile. And then, you start off slow and then eventually you get to the marathon. I don't know why I used a marathon reference. I am
that. No, I love,
so not
well,
a
no,
runner.
I love that because I think the physical is so easy to it's tangible, whether we want
Yeah.
to lose weight or even gain weight, whether we want to build muscle or, maybe it's very, we can visually see that and
Mm-hmm.
understand that. So I think it's
Yeah.
great what you're saying. And yeah, what is your big why, which is your big goal, and then work backwards and make it into
Mm-hmm.
smaller chunks and take little steps every day so you don't get overwhelmed. And one of the big things all of us women need to do is remember we can be so hard on ourselves when something doesn't go right, but we forget
Yeah.
to celebrate our wins. And so please set up a reward system of sorts for yourself for all
Yeah.
the little wins and the big wins along the way, because, this is positive reinforcement and that
Yeah.
is a beautiful thing. And just, like I always think, how are you serving others? One of my biggest things that gets me through anything is um I need to be of service. And if I
Mm-hmm.
don't show up, I don't help somebody and they might
Yep.
need that help. And so it's not about me. And
Right.
so it helps me get over anything that's really standing in my way, whatever that might be. So anyway, I truly loved talking to you. This was a beautiful, beautiful interview, very inspiring. And I
Thank
love the
you.
that you're doing because you are going to help people get their message out there on one of the best forms of media that we have. Everybody pretty much enjoys podcasts. And I
Yeah.
think it's just fantastic that you are
Thank you.
positioning your services in the foundational pieces of what is it that you have to say and how do you want to show up in the world and how do you want to serve and getting that message, solid so that someone can go forward with such power in themselves to be helpful to others. So last time, website one more time before we sign
Sure.
off.
Sure. It's www.topshelfvirtualservices.com.
Okay, wealthy women, I told you this was going to be a beautiful, inspiring interview. And I really encourage you to, if you haven't already started your podcast, really consider it. It is fun. Podcasting is fun. I love it. It's actually probably one of my favorite ways that I'm doing my business. And people just, what's great about podcasting is people don't have to necessarily sit down to watch a video. They can listen on the go while they're exercising, cleaning the house, sitting and, start your podcast, your day off with a positive podcast, or it's just such a great way. So please reach out and learn what your message is and how to articulate it and then share it and just keep going for all your dreams and one step at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. That is the biggest thing. Take it in
Mhm.
small, little steps, and remember to reward yourself, and also to allow enough space for yourself so you feel really good about the work that you're trying to create and build this business in a way that is supporting you and not depleting you. So you got to be really aware of that, because it's easy to get overwhelmed. It's easy to think, oh my goodness, I have no time. There's so many things I have to do. No, you need to stop, and you need to, time block enough space for your own personal self so that you're fueled enough to show up the way you really want to show up. And if it's not feeling really good, then you stop and say, what is the most joyful way that I can do this? Whatever that
Mhm.
is. And just slow down, because you would be amazed at how much progress you will make in, like, let's say a couple months or a year, by not overwhelming yourself. It's when you
Mhm.
overwhelm yourself that you spin out and you really don't get that much done, and you definitely don't enjoy it. And so you really want to pay attention to that as a red flag. As soon as you're feeling that, step back and reassess, and do that all the time. And you're going to enjoy your beautiful business that you're building along the way that way. And so, anyway, I just love that you're all here and listening and being inspired. And thank you again so much for this beautiful interview. And I'm so thankful and grateful. So until next time, wealthy women, I will see you soon. Bye for now. Now, here goes the imperfect part. See, I need to find my stop recording button. Here we go.